Hey guys, welcome to my YouTube channel. I'm your host JT, and if this is your first time tuning in, thank you and welcome. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button and the notification bell so you know every time I upload a new video. Today's special guest is a friend of mine who has more positive energy than life itself. And he has played hockey as well as been a broadcaster of hockey for years. And I'm so excited because this gentleman is a mentor of mine and a mentor of so many others. So please welcome Tripp Tracy.
Well, JT, also known as affectionately to me, the 100-tonner, because you have your certification for, of course, any Goliath vessel up to 100 tons on the water, which is unbelievably impressive among the countless impressive attributes. They're really countless that I can remember meeting you on the boat on a Saturday afternoon in northern Michigan, and as they said in Jerry Maguire,
you had me at hello.
You had me at hello with regards to friendship. So I'm thrilled to be with you, my great friend.
Well, thank you. We both just got back from Florida and had an awesome time down there. Yeah. But tell us a little bit about your fishing experience down there.
Oh, the elusive invisible swordfish. I was with my dearest of friends and a dear friend of yours, Nick Giorgio, and it was an adventure. It was an adventure because the swordfish proved to be tremendously elusive. We had one bite. We think it was a 300 to 400 pounder in our crock pot fishing situation at about 1,800 feet. Prior in the fishing trip, 100-tonner, we lost two of our four engines. As a matter of fact, fittingly so, fishing line, not our line, was caught in two of our starboard motors, and we had to crawl up to Palm Beach to 7 to get the engines fixed. We came away from the trip without a bite. Well, without a fish. We had a bite, but we were able to spend a fabulous Saturday with you down in Ocean Reef, Key Largo, before we made it through the buoys back to Miami.
That was a highlight of my time down there, being with you guys. So thank you.
And, thank you.
And so, yeah, so the elusive swordfish still waits to be caught, but it will be tackled here soon.
It's right there at the top of my list to get that sword. My mom, who I'm up here in Grosse Pointe with, lost my dad about 1.5 years ago. So my mom and I aren't just a mother and a son; we're best friends. She really put the pressure on before Nick and I went down, because she announced that of all of her favorite fresh fish in the world, swordfish fillets certainly are her favorites. So that made us dig in, and we came away without the swordfish fillets, and it's tough to disappoint her. But I put it right there, 100-tonner, and you're an angling guru as well. As a matter of fact, earlier, before we spent last Saturday together, you had gotten to many what is an elusive bonefish, no problem, old hat, JT just getting it done. But for me, I put the swords right there with wanting on my checklist. Bluefin tuna, certainly a wahoo, because I want to taste that freshly caught sushi from the wahoo on the boat. I would say an African pompano. Those are some of the fish that I really want to check the box here in the next few years.
I know that you have had a passion and everything for hockey, and it's become a career as well. And so could you take us on a little bit of your journey with hockey, and from the start to, going into the NHL and playing for the Philadelphia Flyers, and just tell us a little bit about that journey.
Well, I remember going to the rink, and I wouldn't call it one of the finest rinks in the country, but GPCR on Mack Avenue. I remember going in there when I was 6 or 7, JT, and I saw the hockey players, and I said, wow, I really want to play. As a matter of fact, thinking back upon it, Brian Crane, who grew up in Grosse Pointe, ended up playing hockey at Michigan State. He probably deserves the credit, because we were close friends, of getting me into it in the first place. And when I was over at GPCR and I saw the hockey players, I thought it was cool. And I asked my parents if I could play, and they said, you got to take a year of figure skating first. So I did it. I was always a pretty good skater. But then I started playing defense. I scored in my first game, then went in about a year and a half drought, moved to forward. It wasn't really a good two-way forward. And one day at McCann Arena at Liggett, our goalie didn't show up. And so I jumped in goal, and I catch the other way. I'm a lefty. So I had to use, I think, a baseball glove for my glove because, your typical glove and blocker were opposite for me. That led to, being pretty good at goal. But then I remember, and I'll land this plane, that when you go from playing house league, JT, to travel hockey, it is a colossal commitment from your parents. Everything changes, whether, it be Thanksgiving, Christmas, any other holiday, you're going to a hockey tournament, usually somewhere in Canada, but probably, possibly somewhere in the United States as well. And the way it is now, it could even be more international than that. And I made the travel team as a squirt. So that would have been like 8, 9 or 10, I want to say. And we had a big vote if I was going to be able to play travel hockey with my mom, my dad, and I. And my dad, who ended up sponsoring hockey and producing 20, 30 NHL players that came from GPD, which was the youth team that he sponsored for many years, he voted against it, actually. He voted against it, and my mom and I voted yes. My dad fell in love with it as soon as he started doing it. And to bring it all back together after playing in college, and then I played pro for 2 years. I had a cup of coffee in the NHL. I wish it had been longer than that, but I was thrilled just to even put on an NHL jersey as a player.
Of course.
But when the Hurricanes won the Stanley Cup in 2006, and really classy, meaningful move by the team, JT, they let me know that I was going to get the Stanley Cup for a day. My dad loved wine. He loved wine. He had a big wine collection. So I covertly asked him, I said, Dad, what was the year that we had that vote of whether or not I could play travel hockey? And he went, 1982. The funny part was, because I had it in my mind, I wanted him to drink an 82, a nice Bordeaux, out of the Stanley Cup, signed by the entire team. 82 happens to be arguably the best year in the last 100 years of Bordeaux. Okay, so it was fitting for a wine lover.
Very fitting.
And I know you would say that you have the greatest dad of all time, and I'm proud to call your dad one of my dear friends. I certainly believe my dad, God rest his soul, was the greatest dad of all time. So he drank a 1982 Lafitte Rothschild out of the Stanley Cup.
Stanley Cup.
Yeah, that was pretty neat.
It's so cool. So your hockey career, was awesome, and then from there, what did you do between that time, and then I know that you also jumped into being the voice of the Carolina Hurricanes, and so how has that experience been with the Carolina Hurricanes?
Well, what happened was once my second year, and I got called up to the NHL, and I objectively looked at it, partner, and I knew it was going to be tough. It was going to be tough. I could jump in all sorts of different tangents, but I was still waiting for the growth spurt that never came. I remember a growth doctor here in Grosse Pointe, when I was 13, 14, predicted I was going to be a minimum of 6 feet, maybe even bigger because my dad was taller than that. The growth spurt never came, and I bring that up because it really would have helped where I was drafted. Instead of being drafted in the 9th round by Philadelphia, I had a very good freshman year. It probably would have been a lot higher in the draft if I was 6'1", 6'2". Anyway, after the 2 years, I felt like, okay, this is the right time to move on to the next chapter. And I always thought about, of course, I dreamt of having a long NHL career. That didn't happen. But I always, the perfect scenario, although, it's the old line, if you want to make God laugh, tell him your plan. I wanted to be a broadcaster. And so I got, through a friend from school, I got an internship at CNN in Atlanta. I moved to Atlanta. And then within a month, 6 weeks, I was down there living in Buckhead outside of Atlanta, working at CNN just as an intern, really. And the Carolina Hurricanes color analyst, so one of the two TV broadcasters, left to take the job, same position with the Chicago Blackhawks. Pete Carmanis, who I had a very close relationship with, because his son, Jason, and I played junior hockey together here. We were roommates at Harvard. Pete always went out of his way to show belief in me, whether it be playing for CompuWare here when I played junior, when the Flyers elected not to sign me. He was the catalyst of getting me an NHL tryout with the Hartford Whalers before they moved to Carolina. And then he gave me the job with zero experience, really zero experience, because he believed I could develop into a good broadcaster.
That's awesome.
That's how the total opposite to the most broadcasters in news, sports, any other realm of broadcasting. They have to really grind it out, go to small markets, come up through the ranks. Pete believed in me, and he gave me an opportunity with zero experience. I would. If I were to go back and watch the tape of some of those early years, I probably would, there'd be a vomiting situation. No doubt about it. It would create a lot of nauseous moments for yours truly. But I learned on the job. And what I would say to you, because you inspire me so much, you really do. I mean, one of my favorite moments in the last couple of years was reading Untethered as I was flying across the Atlantic Ocean. Talk about cool. I'm looking out the window, as it became dark. And I had a great seat, and I'm reading Untethered, and the eloquence, the power of the message of my great friend JT Mesta. Anyway, I don't want to jump on it, but what I will tell you, partner, is that what I lacked at some point, I'm not sure exactly where it happened, as a hockey player, I have as an announcer. And what I mean by that is, somewhere along the line as a player, I think it was somewhere in college, I went from expecting to win to hoping to win. And I went from wanting to be on the big stage to make the big save when the game or even the season was on the line, to dreading giving up a soft goal at the wrong moment. Broadcasting, that confidence that I lacked, I have it in a complete sense. I remember when the Hurricanes played Edmonton in the Stanley Cup. It's Game 7. I grew up here with Hockey Night in Canada on television. Ron McLean, Don Cher, they had me on Hockey Night in Canada. However many million people are watching, because it's the Edmonton Oilers. It's Game 7 of the Stanley Cup, JT. And I was totally, utterly at ease. And that inside, I said to myself, what I have here is what I lacked towards the end on the ice. And some of the great players in the National Hockey League that I don't just have a professional relationship with, but I call friends. You take a guy like a Sidney Crosby, a Jonathan Taves, my dear friend, our coach, but our Stanley Cup winning captain, Rod Brindamore. They want the puck on their stick with the game on the line. And it's hard for me to admit, but I didn't want to make a mistake and let my teammates down. You put me in a broadcast booth, I have every bit of the confidence that I unfortunately lost somewhere along the line. And I think that applies to all areas of life.
Yeah, it does. That confidence that you show all the time, whether it's on TV or in an interview, whatever the circumstance is I think that it comes from that joy that you have in what you're doing too, because you love what you're doing, and it's so cool to see. But you brought up Untether, and I was thinking about adventure. That is sort of what the book encapsulates. And so what is some adventure in your life, which I know you've had tons of adventures, but what's one adventure that stands out?
Okay, first of all, my primary reaction looking across at you, partner, is, of course, reading the power of your message and Untethered, and another great book, by the way, possibly in the works right now, so stay tuned.
Yes.
But I mean, my first thought was, gosh, I'll tell you, you could have been the guy in the Dos Equis commercial. I mean, you could be the world's most interesting man, 100-tonner, 100-ton captain. You can get it done on the water, on the slopes. I mean, you really could make an argument. You are the world's most interesting man. Anyway, that's my sidebar. Boy, a couple adventures that pop out to me. One would be the boat trip that I went on with with Nick Giorgio, Mike Giorgio, Tony Galbo, Tony Vitello, Paul Olin, but then he bowed out early with a bad back because we were supposed to leave the yacht club at 8:00 in the morning, and we're supposed to be at happy hour at Mackinac Island at the Pink Pony, and apparently that's the way it always worked before I showed up. The last 2 boat trips I've gone on, okay, the first one we didn't get to Mackinac, and last year we had our sunroof, the glass shatter in the middle of Lake Huron. We almost ran out of gas in the middle of Lake Huron. We crawled into Rogers City because really with radar and everything, and it's 11:00 at night. We just about ran out of fuel. So that was an adventure that had a happy ending. That had a happy ending. And then we ran into actually some issues on the ground in Rogers City too. I won't get into that.
But you're right. Mother Nature at its finest.
Mother Nature at her finest. And Lake Huron ain't no disco.
No.
I mean, I've had very few issues. I'm tournament tough, even though I didn't come up with a swordfish on the ocean. Lake Huron has been a true challenge for yours truly.
Well, I also know that not just your adventures you have a love for, but you also have a passion for staying active. And so what have you been doing during quarantine to stay in shape?
Well, judging by my girth, I don't know if this camera is just, it goes below my pectoral region. I'm not doing much, it would appear. I have what one might call a slowing metabolism, and it's very frustrating for me right now, 100-tonner, because I got a Peloton, which has been a godsend. My fitness numbers on the Peloton, I've been going back and forth with our young star on the Hurricanes, Andrei Svechnikov, who's got better numbers, on the Peloton. My numbers are borderline right up there with what a current day NHL athlete would have. But it's not doing a damn thing in terms of, dealing with my waistline. So what am I doing? I guess I'm not doing enough nutritionally. No, and I need to catch some more of the fresh fish. Well, my mom has a sweet tooth, which is a real issue of her and I being together.
You and me both.
Our old trainer with the Hurricanes at one point, and was he right when he said, "You can't outwork a bad diet." Marinate on that one.
That's good.
I mean, I'm known with the Hurricanes because I do after every second period Tripp's Taco Bell take and I mean, I just recently had our governor, Roy Cooper, come on, Big Time Caniac, come on my podcast that I can't wait to have you on. And, he said towards the end of the session, he said, "Tripp, I'll see you at the Taco Bell drive-thru." Well, I might have to either really reduce the number of Taco Bell drive-thru visits or eliminate them altogether because now I'm not doing a great job, JT.
Well, you and I will have to jump on a little competition on the Peloton.
Well, you look like
soon,
Hans and Franz right now.
I don't know about that, but
you got about four. You got about 5 heads on each of those shoulders you got working.
But
there.
we will definitely do a Peloton competition here.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll have to stream it live or something.
Oh gosh, that'd be good.
One last thing is what is the best piece of advice that you've gotten from either a coach, your mom, your dad, a family member, or just a friend?
Boy. I don't want to go on like I'm Leo Tolstoy, War and Peace, 1,000 pages here, but it's a great question. A couple things that jump out to me, and you referred to it a few minutes ago, and it was coming from you because in the years that I've been grateful and privileged to be your friend, and that'll only get better and better in the present and in the future, partner. I've never seen you have a bad day. You're always smiling, and your positive outlook, without questions, I think it pulls other people into the positive fight. I hope that I have some of that. We were talking about hockey. Our goaltender who won the Stanley Cup with us, Cam Ward, when he was a young kid, his dad wrote, and he still would do this on his sticks in his long and great NHL career. He'd write, "Have fun," right there on the heel of his goalie stick. And it's because his dad told him, more fun you have, the better you play. Okay? So that applies to all areas of life. The more fun you have, happiness takes hard work. It doesn't just happen, okay?
That's right.
I can tell you this. I mean, I probably learned that from some of my failed relationships as I've proven to be anything but Casanova. But it's, anything professionally or personally that brings you great happiness. It doesn't just happen in and of itself. It takes hard work. So that would be one lesson. Do something you're passionate about, because chances are if you love it and you have fun doing it and you're willing to punch in and do the work, you're going to be that much more successful.
And you will succeed.
The other thing I would say, 100-tonner, is, and I learned this from Rod Brindamore, who I have a ton of respect for. He should be in the Hall of Fame. I certainly hope he will be as a hockey player. He was our Stanley Cup winning captain. The Stanley Cup was elusive throughout his entire career before he finally got the cup from Commissioner Gary Bettman. And now he's brought the Hurricanes back as our head coach. And I had the pleasure of walking his mom down the aisle at his wedding. And I can tell you this, what I admire most about Rod, there are many things, but is routine. And when I say routine, I mean a routine that you stick to, whatever that is, in terms of your mind and body and soul, on a daily basis. You don't waver from that routine, because a routine gives you confidence. When the going gets tough, when you're in the valley, when you're a bit down, the routine, it is something you can lean on to get you through, to make you feel good about yourself. Case in point with him, 3 days after, he won his first Stanley Cup, I called him. I said, Rodney, what are you doing? He said, I just finished a good workout. I said, what, are you nuts? I said, you finally just won the cup. You aren't going gangbusters, hoots and horns. And he said, Tripp, I've learned it's much tougher to get out of shape and get back into shape than it is to maintain. It's almost like an aircraft carrier on the ocean. Once you get it going in a certain direction, you're cruising. Think about it. Then if you fall off and you got to turn it around, how hard it is to stay. I mean, not for a 100-ton captain, but how hard it is to turn it around and get it going before you're in that maintain chapter and portion of the tour. So we all go through tough times. I really think it's important that when you do, I'm a communicator. Those closest to me would say, you're always going to know what's on my mind. But I really think that you should always talk about if something's not right inside, share about it, with your friends and your family. Family first, and the people that really care about you. And then lean on that routine. Because when the going gets tough and do you remember, have you seen that YouTube video? The guy, I think it's from the Navy, I don't know if it was a Marine, that talked about the importance of making your bed every day.
Making your bed.
You've seen
your bed. I've read it.
Yeah. Okay, so that's just one bullet point of the routine, okay? And being the foundation. I can tell you there was a stretch where I wasn't happy, and I got away from that routine. And what ends up happening is that only makes whatever rough spot you're in, it magnifies, it amplifies it. And I'm never going to let that happen again, because that routine gives you the confidence and foundation when you need it the most.
That's awesome. Well, thank you so much, Tripp, for sharing your amazing story, because we all have a story that matters so much. And it means so much to me that you came on to spend this time with us to share your story.
Well, 100-ton, I can't tell you how lucky I am to call you a friend. And I can't wait for reciprocity when you come on my podcast and we get it done. I get to ask a tremendous human being and friend the questions when I become the interviewer.
Well, I'm looking forward to that. Thank you. Thank you for watching my YouTube channel. If you haven't already, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and leave a comment below. I hope stories like Tripp Tracy's inspires you to share your story, because your story matters.